The receipt sat on the table like a slap in the face. Tip, $0. Not a single penny, just empty white space where gratitude was supposed to live. Foralina Ramirez standing in the fading light of a late-shift diner with grease in the air and the low hum of a tired kitchen behind her. That zero felt like the final straw in a week that had already tried to break her. She stared at it for a long second, then forced a breath, tucked the receipt into her apron, and kept moving, because stopping wasn't an option. Before we dive deeper into Elena's story, if you believe that kindness can still show up when the world feels coldest, please hit that like button right now. Leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Share this with someone who needs a reminder that good things still happen, and subscribe to Kindness Stories Global. Your support helps these stories reach the people who need them most. Elena was 28, a single mom raising a bright-eyed 5-year-old named Sophia in a small town just outside Rivertena Place. People passed through but rarely stayed. She worked double shifts at the Riverside Diner, a classic spot with cracked red booths and coffee that never quite ran out. Every morning she woke before dawn, braided Sophia's hair, packed a little lunch with a handwritten note, "Mummy loves you bigger than the sky," and dropped her off with Mrs. Carter next door, the only neighbor kind enough to watch her for almost nothing. Elena carried her exhaustion quietly. She smiled at every customer, remembered who liked extra cream, who wanted their eggs over easy, who always asked about her day even when she knew they didn't really care. She did it because tips were survival, and because she refused to let the world make her bitter. That particular Friday had been brutal. The lunch rush bled into dinner without mercy. A trucker had snapped at her for cold coffee. A family of 6 left the table looking like a tornado, hit it and tipped her $3. By 8 o'clock her feet ached so badly she could feel her pulse in her soles. Then he walked in. Everyone noticed, though no one said a word. He wore a dark, perfectly cut coat despite the mild evening, and moved with the calm certainty of someone who never had to rush. He chose a corner booth, ordered black coffee and the daily special, and spoke so politely that Elena almost didn't notice how little he actually said. His credit card read, Vito Langford, a name she didn't know, though half the country would have recognized it instantly. A self-made billionaire who stayed out of the headlines. Elena treated him the same as everyone else. She refilled his coffee without being asked, brought his plate hot and exactly right, and checked back once more than usual, because something in his quiet eyes felt heavy. He thanked her softly each time, nothing more. When he finished, he laid his silverware neatly together, stood, nodded once, and left. Elena came back to clear the table. The receipt was signed, tip line blank, 0. Her throat tightened. Not anger, something deeper. Defeat. She thought of the overdue electric bill waiting at home, the pediatrician copay she'd been putting off, the shoes Sophia had already outgrown. She blinked hard, twice, then reached for the plate. It didn't slide easily. Something caught underneath. She lifted it slowly and saw a folded white note tucked precisely under the edge. Her name Elena was written on the outside in careful, deliberate handwriting. Her heart gave one hard, unexpected beat. She waited until the diner slowed, slipped into the staff bathroom, locked the door, and unfolded the paper with shaking fingers. The note was short. I watched you today. I saw how you smiled even when you were tired. How you knelt to tie a child's shoe at another table without thinking. How you kept going when most people would have given up. This isn't a tip. It's a beginning. Behind the note was a business card, simple, elegant, and a folded check. The amount made her knees buckle. Not millions. Not some flashy, life-changing fortune. Exactly enough to catch up on bills, cover 3 months of childcare, and leave a little breathing room. Enough to feel human again. On the back of the card, in the same handwriting, call if you want more than survival. No obligation. Elena stood there in the fluorescent light, tears sliding silently down her cheeks for the first time in months. She went home that night and held Sophia a little longer, breathing in the scent of baby shampoo and crayons. Possibility fragile, unfamiliar stirred in her chest for the first time in years. If this story is already touching you, please pause right now and hit like. Drop a quick comment with the city or country you're watching from, and share this video with someone going through a hard time. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to Kindness Stories Global and turn on notifications. We post new stories of real kindness every week. We'll be right back with part 2. The next morning, Elena sat in her old car outside Mrs. Carter's house for almost 30 minutes, phone in and staring at the business card. She almost didn't call. What if it was a mistake? What if it was some elaborate prank? What if she let herself hope and it crumbled again? But Sophia's little voice from the back seat, "Mummy, are we going?" pushed her thumb to dial. A calm woman answered, listened without interrupting as Elena stumbled through who she was and why she was calling, then simply said, "Mr. Langford expected you might. He'd like to meet when you're ready." They met a week later in a quiet office, an hour's drive away. Victor Langford was exactly as she remembered, reserved, observant, kind in a way that didn't need announcing. He didn't offer pity. He offered respect. He explained that his foundation quietly looked for people who kept showing up, who chose decency even when no one was watching. He believed real change came from giving people tools, not handouts. The check had been intentional, not to buy gratitude, but to remove immediate fear so she could think clearly. Elena didn't quit the diner right away. She started small, took online classes in business management at night after Sophia was asleep, read every book the foundation sent, asked questions, made mistakes learned. The diner owner noticed, gave her more responsibility. Then, with a modest grant and months of guidance, Elena proposed a plan. Update the menu, refresh the space, create a weekend kids corner so parents could eat without stress. Turned the diner into a real community anchor. The owner said yes. 2 years later, the Riverside Diner glowed with warm lighting, local art on the walls, and a corner full of toys and coloring books where kids played safely while parents relaxed. Elena managed the place. Now, she'd hired 3 other single moms who needed flexible hours and fair pay. Sophia did her kindergarten homework at the counter most afternoons, chattering with regulars who felt like family. Victor Langford visited once a year, always on a quiet weekday, always sat in the same corner booth, always paid with the same card. And every time, the tip line read $0. But every time, when Elena cleared the table, she found a new folded note tucked beneath the plate. One year it read, "Proud doesn't begin to cover it." Another, "You turned survival into thriving. Thank you for proving it's possible." The last one, "Just a few months ago, the world is better because you refuse to let it make you small." Elena keeps every note in a small wooden box in her office. On hard days, she reads them again. Sometimes what looks like nothing like an empty tip line on a busy night is actually everything. A door cracking open, a second chance disguised as disappointment, a quiet reminder that kindness often arrives in ways we almost miss. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that hope can still find us even on the worst days, please hit that like button right now. Share this video with anyone who feels overlooked or tired. Let them know they're not alone. Drop a comment below and tell us, what would you have done if you found that note under the plate? And where in the world are you watching from tonight? Your words and your shares help these stories travel farther than we ever could alone. Thank you for being part of Kindness Stories Global. Turn on notifications. There's another true story of unexpected goodness coming very soon. Because sometime, the smallest gesture under a pledge can change an entire life. 32 es de uma parte extra. Para ser colocado no final de Juan Marching before we go. Years have passed now, and the Riverside Diner isn't just surviving anymore, it's thriving in a way no one could have predicted that night. Elena still keeps that very first note in the small wooden box, but the box has grown heavier with new ones. Not just from Victor, though he still comes every year without fail, still sits in the same booth, still leaves the tip line blank and a quiet message underneath the plate. Now, there are notes from others, too, from the young cook who started as a dishwasher and now runs the kitchen because Elena believed in him when no one else did. From the single dad who brings his kids every Saturday morning and once told her, voice cracking, that watching her build something beautiful gave him the courage to fight for custody. From strangers who heard the story, somehow it spread quietly through town. Then Father Ann stopped by, just to say thank you for reminding them that people can still choose kindness, even when they're bone-tired. Elena never turned the diner into a chain or chased fame. She kept it small, warm, real. A place where tired parents can breathe, where kids feel safe, where everyone who works there earns enough to live, not just scrape by. Sophia is 10 now. She helps clear tables on weekends, saves her tips in a jar labeled college, and when new staff look overwhelmed, she's the first to slide onto a stool beside them and say, "My mom says the hard days don't last forever. You just have to keep showing up." On quiet evenings, when the last customer leaves and the lights are low, Elena sometimes stands at the counter and looks at that corner booth. She thinks about the night everything felt impossible, about the zero that wasn't really zero at all. She thinks about how one person, watching silently, decided her quiet strength was worth betting on. And she thinks about how that single act rippled outward, touching lives she never even know. Because kindness doesn't always shout. Sometimes it slips in unnoticed, folded neatly under a plate, waiting for the right person to lift it up and see what's really there. If this story has stayed with you, if it's reminded you that your own quiet perseverance matters more than you realize, please do one last thing for us tonight. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Share this video with someone who's carrying more than they should. Right now, let them know they're seen. Drop a comment and tell us what you would have done if you'd found that note. Or maybe tell us about a time someone noticed you when you thought no one was looking. And if these stories of unexpected goodness lift you up the way they do us, subscribe to Kindness Stories Global and turn on the bell. We're here every week with new reminders that the world still has light in it, even on the hardest days. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. You being here matters, because sometimes what looks like nothing is the start of everything.